Okay, it is recording, and just speak at a normal level so it picks up everything. All right, so we have with us Charles, and we are interviewing you for our MCS project, where we are. I can't remember our exact title. Can you do it?
Oh, so
That's why I was like.
it's for our hashtag Retrievable, the student organization / action group on campus that networks everything in terms of accessibility issues and action and inclusivity here on campus. And Charles, just kind of talk about like what your, I guess, daily routine is getting around here at UMBC.
Well, a lot of the routes that I take around campus are often seen as being sort of convoluted because they're not what most people think of. Like most people sort of take the routes that walk up the stairs. When you get into like the higher tier 2 and tier 3 buildings, like what's the building called?
Fine arts.
Fine arts is one of the tiers.
Engineering.
IT. So those buildings have interesting pathways to get to them, and there's a couple of different routes that exist. And a lot of times, people who walk with me find that it's very sort of interesting, convoluted how I go through. It's not necessarily like faster or slower. It's just more indirect than you might think it should be. Maybe, I don't know.
So, like, what are the kinds of problems that you find with these routes besides them being kind of long and circuitous?
The only real sort of problem that I have with the routes is that sometimes the accessibility buttons are not placed in places where they would be immediately obvious. You sort of have to learn where they are and how they work. There are a few places where like there's really a sort of a zigzag of buttons where you have to like run between them to try to get all the doors to open. And so that's the only. I think the most poignant example of that is to get into math psych. I think is the most out of the way button that I've seen anyway. And some of the common buttons are like that too, but math psych is one of the more specific examples.
So, when we talk to the Accessibility Service Office, one of the things that they said was that they now have like a Google form in instances like you're mentioning where like a button might not be working. But with what we're trying to do with like a hashtag where people could kind of report that, I mean, do you think something like that would be beneficial on campus?
Yeah, anything that increases the amount of information for people that need this kind of thing would be useful, because I think one of the things that people look for when they're applying for schools, especially people with disabilities, is how quick are they able to disseminate like information about what services are and are not there and how can they be rendered and so on and so forth. Many people are sort of confused about how different institutions handle that, and I think having that as a center of what you do might be very interesting to help with advocacy of saying, yes, we can include people that need services like this and such. Yeah.
Did anything, when you were applying for this campus, did anything turn you off about the campus? Is there stuff you don't like?
Physically? Like, you mean with the physical sort of
Yeah,
layout?
physically.
Not necessarily. That wasn't one of the. I wasn't really concerned with the way things were. As long as everything sort of worked, I was okay with that. I was very functional in the sense that, like, because I mean, the facilities here are actually a lot better than a lot of the other places that I've been to. So,
like what other places have you been to?
I went to Prince George's Community College. They had some pretty. I mean, it was all in one level anyway. But I mean, there were instances where like elevators went out and were out for weeks, and that never happens here. Like if an elevator is out, usually it's fixed within like a day or two, usually, or there's another route to take or something like that. So I think that as far as accessibility, physical accessibility, particularly with wheelchairs, I will not speak on any other kinds of accessibility, but physically with wheelchairs, I think it's at least decently okay.
So you kind of laughed at first. What are some of the drawbacks of UMBC, just from a student standpoint?
I mean, people always joke about the long walk to pub, but the joke is for me, like, it's a long walk for everyone. It's gonna be a joke. It's gonna be a long walk regardless of who you are or what kind of thing you use.
So, about how many times a week do you come to the campus?
I currently live on campus, and I have been living on campus. I don't know what that would look like if I was a commuter. That would be a whole different animal. I do know some people with disabilities that do commute, so that would be interesting.
Where do you live on campus?
Harbor Hall.
Do you find that the facilities there kind of are made to accommodate you?
Yeah, actually, what's kind of funny is that I've been living in the same room for 3 years because they were like, basically, it works, so we're gonna keep you there, because it's, you know.
That sounds about right.
Are there any groups that you're part of on campus?
Not I mean, oh wait, I actually am involved, or was involved with, what's that group called? It's the SDS group. It's the SDS academic group thing. I forget what it's called, DAFI or something like that. I was involved with that for a bit. I don't do as much work with them as I probably should, but I was involved with that at least.
What have you personally noticed the campus doing to kind of reach out to people like you in your situations? Or does the campus reach out to people like you in your situations?
They do have events like the accessibility walks, which I think is a very sort of open thing to do, and things like that. And they also, SDS does seek out students. In fact, they found me. I didn't find them. They found me. They were like, "Hey, are you sure you're good?" And I'm like, "Yeah." So, I mean, they've been more forward with providing services than a lot of other schools are. A lot of other schools, you have to sort of be in their face and fight them for things, and this was not the case with UMBC.
So you're saying like UMBC is better than a lot of other schools?
That I have personally seen, but you know.
That's kind of nice to know, don't you think?
Yeah.
Now, did you take part in the accessibility walk that they had last week?
I did not. I wanted to be there, but I had some other things to do with tests and stuff. But yeah.
Yeah, Malcolm, who we met with, said that it was something that they had done, I guess, more of in the past, and it was something they were trying to get back into doing on a more regular basis.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting sort of awareness directive or drive or whatever you want to put it. It's
Well, when I mentioned the adaptive sports, it sounded like you had heard of the adaptive sports program that they were trying to get in the phys ed program here.
Yeah, because I knew Theo, so I talked with him a bit about it, and I've never been too detailed about adaptive sports. So do you know any more about that?
I don't. I know it was a class or they were trying to make it a phys ed class because there's a phys ed requirement here at UMBC. That was my understanding from it, and they were trying to do wheelchair basketball as like a semester long class, and I think they've hosted events over at the RAC where they've had I don't know if it was a professional or semi-professional team that came in and played, and it was just kind of like a day of awareness, I guess, on campus.
That would be a very interesting directive again to take on, because I kind of joke sometimes that I've only been in the RAC twice my entire time at UMBC. The first was convocation, and the second was to get my waiver. So, you know.
Do you wish that UMBC had more activities like that, or even, you know, when it comes to sports, you know, more things that are more inclusive to everyone on campus?
Inclusive sports has always been this weird thing for me, because like people don't usually do it right. So it'd be interesting to see how it's implemented, because I mean sometimes it goes anywhere from like we're just gonna throw you a ball and keep you in a corner to like we're actually gonna include you in the sports. And I don't know much about how truly integrative sports programs work, but it would be a really nice initiative to really think about how that works.
Okay, so have you really encountered any major challenges while being on this campus?
With regards to my disability that I think could actually be accommodated that were not, I do not think so. But in my case, I'm lucky that I don't have a lot of needs beyond like the basic sort of wheelchair needs. So as long as those are there, it's fine. There's a few odd little things that are just kind of here and there, but they're nothing major that I would scream sort of murder at, you know.
Okay. So that's pretty much it for these questions, the ones that everyone gave me. And we just hit the 10-minute mark on the interview.
All right, yeah. I mean that's kind of how it goes sometimes. You start talking and it goes.
It goes.
Yeah. Next thing you know, 10 minutes have gone by. I mean.
All right then. Well,
So.
thank you, Charles, for doing this for us.
Not a problem.
Thank you so much. I'm gonna stop the camera now.